You're listening to Consulting Logistics, presented by FreightPlus. I'm your host, Kyle McNaught. Thanks for checking us out. It's a fun episode today because it's a supply chain under 30 or SCU30. Not under 30 or at 30 is why we're amending how we typically call it. But I have a really, really fun guest on the show today. Someone who's just a bolt of energy in this office, really fun to talk to. And I went into her LinkedIn and I found a really cool little quote she has. I love reading the LinkedIn quotes, especially for the SCU30 participants. And hers is, "My job is to enable my customers, both internal and external, to perform at their best every day and continuously achieve higher levels of accomplishment and productivity. It doesn't get any more rewarding than that." And today we had to bring on Chelsea Howard, Executive Account Manager here at FreightPlus and our newest SCU30. Chelsea, what's up?
Hey, thank you. That's quite the introduction.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Florida girl. I got to write it up right. Fellow Florida man. Justice. So yeah, we can't just be nothing but like headlines. Exactly. We gotta represent each other.
Represent the Sunshine State and make up for some other reputations.
Yeah, especially up here in Boston. Actually, I meant to ask, like, what do you think of the fall so far?
Oh, because it's actually fall now. Like right. Outside my window, there's a giant tree. I loved it. It's a gorgeous view to just kind of block the street a little bit, just right in the middle of kind of nature. And the past week, it's literally fall, right?
Yeah,
just
the
fall.
weather,
The yard is full of leaves. They're all different colors. Which
it's like second guessing your Halloween costume. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to actually put clothes on.
It's sweats.
Right?
Yeah.
It can't be like,
I'm going to be a couch potato for Halloween.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's one of the funnest ones. Yeah, it's definitely a fun time up here. It's like the weather's changing. The leaves you're not seeing the foliage as much, but like I've always told people that come up here, I'm like, this is the time to enjoy because winter is coming. Jon Snow, nothing, Jon Snow. It's not great.
Jon Snow is talking about Boston.
Yeah, he is talking about Boston. But yeah, it's awesome having you up here. Really fun journey. I'm so excited to talk to you. Because I think your first week here, I'm like, all right, here's all the stuff you need to know as a Florida person of what it's like to live up in the Northeast. But
that was tremendous because I don't know what questions. There's going to a different city.
Like
I don't know what questions to ask.
You're like, the Walgreens doesn't just get Bud Lights. I'm like, no, you can't go to the Walgreens and get a Bud Light in an open container. So many fun things to learn about, but
and rotaries, which is a massive roundabout that's a highway. And there's just, it's like the Autobahn. There's just 7 lanes that people make up. There's no lines.
No. Traffic's questionable up here. There's no cops up here either.
No left turns. No cops.
Yeah, there's a lot up here, but
a lot to learn.
Let's jump into it. I mean, we the spoiler alert. You're from Florida. You're from Jacksonville. Talk a little bit. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. Only Irvin could go to Jacksonville and have that type of scandal. You're like, yeah, of course. Like, why do you got to do this to us? Why do you have to become a Florida man? Like, you were Columbus, you were Ohio, which is just cold Florida. But we
didn't even hold on to Tebow. So
yeah, I know.
You would think that like the Gators and Jags would be perfect little marriage there.
Oh, I thought it was a brilliant move. We are already well into this episode and we're talking about Tebow now. Let's go back. Let's start growing up. I mean, you grew up in Jacksonville. Talk a little bit about your childhood and stuff.
Yeah, so born and raised in Jacksonville and ended up in the IB program for high school. So basically college prep and then basically college instead of high school. So that was pretty rigorous for about 4 years because you have to still get your high school credits outside of like 6 to 7 academic classes. So technically you could graduate with your AA if you test out of everything. You graduate with your AA and not have actually graduated high school. So a lot to knock out there. So so I had a few classes I was able to test out of like calculus, French, I think one other one. And it's quite a spectrum. But test out of those, but I was just so burnt out, honestly. That I'm like, if I go to a giant university where they don't know my name, I know I'm not going to hold myself to that standard. Right. So I'm like, I need something concentrated. So I went to a couple different like local colleges and whatever.
You're going way too fast. I'm still recording. We're not stopping this, but no, let's scale back before you even get to college and stuff. I mean, IB, International Baccalaureate, right?
Yeah.
Is that, I had tons of friends who did it. Same with you. They were just like, oh my gosh, it's so much. I was like, I took U.S. history and I did really good in AP. That's just Florida education.
AP. Yeah.
Let's go before even that stuff. I mean, what was growing up like? I know Jacksonville and most of the listeners probably just unfortunately think of it as like you're barefoot, just running around in swamps and stuff like that. But I mean, what was it like? I mean, what type of technology did you have? When did you get your first smartphone? What was that like?
So Yeah, we had I think my brother and I one Christmas got a computer, probably like 12-ish or something. So we had to share that. And we also had to narrow it to 30 minutes each. We were allotted that we had screen time, I guess is what it's called now, because there's so many options for screens, but we could have 30 minutes of screen time.
Was it out in the family room?
We had like a guest room that like is kind of like that.
Oh, you had a computer
office.
room. Oh,
yeah, basically. Like, I mean, it was multi-purpose for sure. It just happened to have a spare room that had like, it was storage. It was the one computer that we could sneak in there and play Sims or something. Like, I mean, old school Sims too. It's like that was probably the program that came with the computer. Come to think of it, with all those AOL CDs, you used to steal from Publix.
Also, you were dial up and everything.
Oh, definitely had the dial up days. That screeching noise, I can still hear it. And then had literally a track phone. I think I had junior high. I got my first phone, my mom's hand me down. So still her same number from probably 10 years prior.
Oh.
So that thing was archaic. And then got a track phone that I was responsible for. My parents would load up with like 40 minutes, whatever the minutes were. It's literally like from the gas station.
Yeah, you got the burner phones. You
had
Omar walking around the streets of Duval.
And then we had to we were responsible for if my dad was the most strict about it. If we didn't have enough minutes on our phone for him to call, we were in big trouble. So it wasn't even that social of phone.
I mean, to be fair, the only reason I got the phone was because my mom didn't want to drive to pick us up from baseball. She didn't want to wait around at baseball. Yeah. So she's like, you're getting a phone. You're only supposed to call me when you're ready to be picked up for baseball. I don't want to watch you dumb practices. And I was like, fair enough.
And then hang up after 2 minutes.
Right. It's like, I'm playing Snake on it. I don't really care. Anyways, Mom.
Snake was the best.
Snake was great.
So that was the extent of my phones, I think. And I didn't get an iPhone, honestly, until probably a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think I upgraded to an Android at some point, but
yeah,
it wasn't great.
You're at the line of like, it was probably like, it was out like, I think it came out my sophomore year of college when the first iPhone. So like, we weren't like some of the young, like Jackson, who's been on the show before. Yes. Like he was like, oh yeah, I had a phone like right away.
Yeah.
With IB, I mean, because again, I was in the dummy classes. What type of technology did you have there? Were you like, was it mainly computer based? Was it a lot of like you using Blackboard and stuff like that? Or was that more of like once you get to like college and stuff?
Yeah, well, I forgot. That was a throwback. I forgot about Blackboard. Yeah, I mean, there was still, I mean, at home, we still have like shared computers. My brother and I had to kind of fight over who can,
download music off Napster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He's over there on like LimeWire and AIM. But I have to do a project or something. So we definitely had a lot of shared computer time there. But then at the school, we'd go to like the teachers would like take us to the computer lab so we can work on projects. Later, well, like junior, senior year, we actually got into like you're having your own computer and
like submitting homework online and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot more tech savvy by then, I think.
What about sports or extracurriculars? What were you into?
Honestly, I'm a big fan of tennis, but I didn't play for the school or anything. Honestly, if I could get out of like my projects and homework and stuff, I just want to get out. But I did do drama all 4 years, so that was a blast. Kind of all around. I didn't do as much acting. I actually did like a lot of set crew and house, and kind of like led a drama camp 1 year. Which was really cool for the elementary school. It was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like the behind scenes management of all that stuff's pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting. A lot of times, especially some of the people that we've talked to recently on SCU30, it's a lot of like team sports and stuff like that. But it's cool to hear kind of the different path. I guess we can start moving over into the kind of the college and stuff. So you had IB, which is sort of like you're ready to do college, but like how was that journey for you? You're kind of graduating. What was your plan? What were you thinking of kind of doing once you were getting out of high school and kind of doing the next step in the real world, getting your adult pants on?
Honestly, I had no idea. I had some ideas and things I was really passionate about, and I tend to kind of go all in on something. Like if I'm going to put my name on it, I want to be proud of it, regardless of if that's something I'm actually passionate about, right? So I kind of go all in, but I would not necessarily be something that I personally am passionate about. So I actually, one of the first courses I took at a local college was basically kind of like those, like a Myers-Briggs. There was a whole course over like your personality type, and it's I think called career development or something, but basically trying to find out what you want to do. But work me and personal me are two totally different people.
Yep.
Outside of work, I can just go with the flow, whatever. At work, like I want to get stuff done. I want to be productive. So there's such mixed results in that class too. So kind of the methodology I ended up going with was just anything that really piqued my interest. Try to just really steer all my energy towards that. So even with school, first couple years, really just try to find what really spoke to me and keep going down that path.
So in IB, were there any like kind of were you a STEM person? Did you enjoy any like kind of certain classes or anything like that? I mean, you said you got calculus, which seems like a crazy thing.
I really did like math. And ironically, it's not a major part of my job at all. But yeah, I really liked math. Maybe biology, but it's like chemistry, like the actual, what I would call like the sciences, that was what over my head. Yeah, it was very like kind of different. It was all over the place, really. Like I really loved drama, obviously. Like, and from the management side of that, there was a project we did one time that was, basically you got to pick a different, some role we wanted to in a fictitious play. And you pick whatever you want. I went the director role and basically was now thinking about a project manager for this whole thing and mapped everything out, gave everyone their like assignments and kind of stuff. And I really liked that leadership role, honestly.
That's cool. I mean, a lot of times too in high school, you think of it as like, oh, did I like the STEM stuff? Did I like the history? Did I like English? Well, we're from Florida, so English really wasn't. I asked my wife, she's like, did you even take classes in English? Like, how do you speak? Like, it's not X. I'm like, you say that, lady. Yeah,
that's Jacksonville. Too.
Yeah, no, it's Florida. It's Florida ghetto is what we talk a lot. But yeah, I mean, supposedly, what's the other words I say that I get made fun of so much for? But yeah, English in Florida is not a great thing. It's too hot out there.
Too.
Yeah,
I've gotten in trouble for that. Not in trouble, but I couldn't translate it one time. That like what, you're fixing what? I don't know. Honestly, I just was so on the spot. I had no idea how to actually translate that to English. I'm like, we're fixing to go to.
Yeah, we're gonna go somewhere. Yeah. Like, it ain't that hard.
Finally, now it's like stuck in my head. I'm like, I'm never gonna say that again.
Oh, wait till you haven't probably experienced it yet. You might have with July, but up here they call a cookout a barbecue. So you'd be like, hey, you want to come to a barbecue? And you're like all excited. Like my first one, my buddy's like, hey, we're gonna do a barbecue at my house. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing smoked? I'm like, I know you guys could do that. Sauce, right? I'm like, fantastic. I show up and they're like, here's hamburgers and hot dogs. I'm like, oh, you're just grilling. Like, this is a cookout. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Do this
I'm
on
like,
the foreman.
I'm like, this is not a barbecue, guys.
Right.
Yeah, that was one that blew my mind up here. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, it's not a barbecue. Like, it is a barbecue. You're crazy. But
it's going to take some getting used to because, I mean, you have like Florida barbecue, the Georgia, the Carolinas, Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah, none of the barbecues up here is good, so don't get excited about anything. So when you actually go to a barbecue, you're like, oh, it still takes like 45 minutes to get your food. You're like, it's smoked meat. It should be ready. Like, why is this taking time? Yeah, we could do a whole separate podcast series on barbecue. But what about jobs? Especially kind of, I mean, Jacksonville, like a down southern thing, like I found is a lot of times like, like, you got to work too. Did you have jobs in high school or you working? What were you doing?
Oh yeah.
How you gonna afford them minutes, right?
I mean, literally, yeah. And then the high school I went to was actually for the IB program. We had to pass Middleburg High. I had to pass another high school before getting to mine. So in the morning, I had to like get out in front of that traffic before I could. So obviously that commute, leaving early in the morning, and we were responsible for our gas as well. So my dad's like, you're real enough to work. Go pick up some more hours if you spent all your money. You can fill up your own tank. Oh. So yeah, I mean, they're only 20 every now and then, I think. But yeah, so definitely had to work a lot. Honestly, my first job was at Chick-fil-A. That was a blast, but I always smelled fried. And then it got worse. I got a job at Sonic. Which most people, yes, I was on the rollerblades and everything.
Oh, no way you were?
I was pretty good. I cannot do quads, save my life. It's just like the brakes on the front, you just tip forward.
Right.
But I could do blades. And most people don't know that you tip there, but enough people knew. I actually bought my first car with that. So with that money. So
I wasn't aware you tipped there. So that's good to know.
And I was good with the math too, because everything's like, not even analog. It's literally, I mean, doing the change on your hip and doing the math in your head. So that was really handy. And then where did I work after that? Well, that's all I think in high school. And then right after graduation, I got a bartending job and realized it's a really at a country club. So like, it's not like gross scene or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like actually really nice.
Feet don't stick to the floor.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you get it nice. Yeah.
Everything's actually going through the dishwasher. It's nice. Actually, when I was like a little OCD, so everything was going through there. But
well, that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of the usual thing. You work and you kind of experiencing, you're like, I can't believe you're working in IB. Like most of my buddies who did IB, that was like the one thing their parents were like, all right, you're doing this, you don't have to do it. Your dad's like, you want to go anywhere, you gotta get work. I like it. So then, yeah, I guess kind of moving on, like you didn't have anything that really stuck out to you. So why college? Why did you end up going down that route if like there wasn't something that really, other than being a fictional director in your drama?
Yeah. Honestly, it just kind of was never a question, especially going through IB. Wouldn't have gone through all that if it wasn't for some kind of college preparatory, like goal there. But honestly, it was always understood, and that was just always my plan. And especially not knowing what I wanted to do, just going into some kind of trade didn't really make sense to me because I was like, okay, well then I want to get good at that, so make sure I get a good paycheck and stuff. So might as well maybe go the college route. Already have a few courses already under my belt. So yeah, that's so we started local, just like our local community college or state college now. And started trying stuff out and say what's going to speak to me, even if that led to a trade or something. Like maybe I can get my AA and then find a job that I really like. But then that ended up going all out.
So how'd you end up finding the supply chain then? Like what brought you here? Right?
Yeah. So fun adventure. So I started bebopping around trying to figure out what my path was. And honestly, I also needed an atmosphere where I was set up for success. So in the college environments, there's a couple different schools I went to, and that wasn't the goal, right? Careers and right. Long-term was not the mentality of everyone there. So like I need something that's like really, I'm immersed in the long-term goal here, and ended up at University of North Florida. Their business college is phenomenal. All the people there are phenomenal. And it's such a wide range of people, kids. I'm aging myself
feel like
here.
Kids, no.
But I mean, fresh out of high school, so recent grads, and then also people that, going back to school. It's such a range, and some people that actually valued the education, they're using it towards something, right? So that was just an incredible atmosphere to be around. So completely sunk into that. I was also taking like 5 or 6 classes at a time again. So yeah, that was rough. I just wanted to be done. But then I realized, well, on paper, this isn't looking super great because I mean, my grades might look okay, but on paper, you just took these classes, no extracurriculars, no nothing else going on.
Right.
So that's how I ended up joining the Transportation Logistics Society, just as an extracurricular.
You literally were walking through the quad, and like instead of finding the acapella group, you found the transportation like how do you find?
I tried out for acapella, they wouldn't take me.
You're like, oh man, if only Pitch Perfect was. I'm essentially like the redhead in Pitch Perfect. It's perfect. Don't know. I don't know. Lip sync. Yeah, you're like James Corden.
Like
you failed me.
I got it. Yeah.
You just bring a cup everywhere you go. So
I can do that. I can do that beat.
Oh, cool.
That doesn't get you far though.
How the hell do you fund a Transportation and Logistics Society?
It's almost embarrassing how little I knew about transportation too, because it was, I mean, like Jacksonville is a port town, right?
Right.
It's huge. Transportation is massive there. I'm born and raised, still had no idea how massive that was until I got into transportation and realized, oh, this is an actual main hub.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a friend of mine was in the society, and just like, hey, they're having like a social just to like kind of, present their deal or whatever, kind of invite people. So went to the little social. It was like, after a class or something, it just happened to time out well. And then while I was there, it kind of just played out perfectly. While I was there, a girl in the society was just finishing an internship at this company. And she said, they're actually going to build that internship into a couple of part-time jobs, and I'd be happy to refer you. Yes.
Wait, like you went to this social and this girl's like, you want a job?
Yes.
Was it just...
She's not in charge of making the job. She's like,
we're doing something.
It. So I still had to apply and everything. And against the people that were actually in the society and pursuing transportation. So it was a little tough. But
how packed was... I mean, this little social, was it 2 things, right? What was the mix like? Was it a bunch of dudes and like you and this one girl were like, hey, we could probably have a job together and be away from all these dudes? And also, Was it a lot of people or was it kind of a sparse gathering? Like, what was that like?
No, it was pretty busy because we were also at the restaurant on campus. So, I mean, things going on around us as well.
So you're all at Chili's having a great time.
Yeah, right.
2 for 1.
The Applebee's thing.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, that's the one thing about North Florida too, is that it's so diverse. I know the greater transportation environment tends to be old white men. That tends to be the majority, but yeah, North Florida, actual North Florida
right.
is very diverse. And then the university in North Florida is also very diverse. Lots of people from different countries and stuff. So it's actually a very impressive, I won't say equality, but balance at least of gender, nationality, kind of across
age,
the board.
all the demographics are all that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Actually,
really kind of cool to hear.
I want to say the girl I'm thinking of is Colombian.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And about my age.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So had that girl not offered a job, I guess, at a social, what do you think, like, was there enough interest in the like transportation logistics, or was this just like, oh man, we're at a restaurant, like I'm free thing, like I'd done plenty of those things where I'm like, all right, yeah, cool, free food, I'm a college kid, I'll take that.
Yeah,
like,
right. Like,
was there
free
some
sliders?
do like pockets count? Was there anything else that you were like, oh man, this is kind of cool, or like what? So you got offered a job, which is probably already kind of cool when you're in college. And you're like, okay, cool, great. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but like, did you find more? Like you weren't even taking classes in logistics or anything, right?
No, I actually that following, I think it was a summer course. Once I got the job, I was like, I probably should squeeze in something that has to do with transportation because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
But actually, the job itself was a lot more, honestly, a lot more numbers, a little more analytical, and a lot of tracking, but more numerically and like running reports and stuff like that, a little more analysis. So that was kind of an easy segue for me. I didn't have to really know the industry that well to be successful. And then actually once I was there, started realizing, luckily that was the hub of our headquarters for that division was the office that I was working at. So it also was a full spectrum of the business cycle. So we had accounting, operations, finance, admin, literally all like the full circle. So really got exposure to so much. I used to praise it up and down to any potential intern. Like, you cannot get this kind of exposure anywhere.
Right.
So I really got from there, actually found just there's so much diversity in it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to run with this. And logistics too is, I think, the most painful part of anything you're trying to accomplish. So I'm like, if I can grab that by the horns, then I'm going to be set up for success. So
that's awesome. I mean, one of our recent SCU30s, Lucy Smith, the intern, it was sort of the same thing. She really kind of know what she wanted to do. And she just like, oh, do this internship, like kind of fell into our lap. And she just took the bulls by her, like she grabbed it by the horns. Was like, I'm going to go with this and figure out everything. I think that's one of the, if there's anything that like you're a young supply chain or even like, hey, I don't know what the hell I want to do. Attend to social. You might get offered a job, I guess. That doesn't seem that hard, but it's just grab it, use that opportunity. It's an opportunity. It's not something that you shouldn't sit there and be like, oh God, I'm doing this. Like view it as your future. You're investing in your future. Learn what the hell you actually like to do and what you hate to do during that opportunity.
And you would have no idea. You just reminded me of a TED Talk that I'll have to look it up now, but I adored. But it's these 4 ups. I'm forgetting one, but it was show up, stand up, and speak up. Forgetting the 4th one. That was probably the punchline of the whole thing. But those 3, I mean, is so vital. Literally, I know my passion now, and the course I've been following the past several years is something I didn't know 7+ years ago now that I didn't know existed.
I mean, like you say, like you wouldn't even understand what's rewarded. Like your ability to sit there and go, like my job I enable customers was something that you had to learn. You don't like graduate high school or even college and be like, yep, I know exactly what I like to do. Like it all comes from experience. And it's awesome that you really picked that up. So you did that. It's like part-time job / kind of internship. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all right, logistics seems to be the hardest thing. I'm going to just try to learn that. And that's where you started taking classes, or what ended up happening after like that little kind of job?
So, I don't know if I just took the one foundations of transportation. Everything else I kind of just tried to learn on the job. Well, early on, and in that, just there was some things I couldn't keep up with. And I was like, if I just pursue this at a different angle, and it luckily just had a phenomenal mentor. Actually, the gentleman that hired me, he was a phenomenal mentor really early on, which was so lucky, and really started, kind of teaching me some of the terminology of the path that I'm on now, like right. Process improvement and project management, and the kind of just enabling folks to do their best job. I love that. That's what I loved about drama. I loved being, the director's chair so I can help people at their jobs. And I ended up managing a lot when I was at, my side jobs and stuff. And it's like, maybe this is the path that I like. I like to see what other people can do. But
right.
So I ended up just really getting gung-ho about that. And a position was opening on our sales support team. So I think it'll be great for that. And went over there, did the same thing. I was like, you know what? We're not doing nearly as much as we could be because we're just so overwhelmed. Let me try something a little bit different, learn how to delicately tread those waters. But like, can we try this? And then ended up just really snowballing into, consolidating all of this administrative noise, honestly, ended up being one, we could get one full-time employee and then build up the team with so much more, which, that's just so motivating to me. It's so exciting. Like, what else could we be doing? And just kept going down that path. And that ended up evolving into a whole department dedicated to that. And
so all this occurred while you were still kind of in college. Like this job that you just were talking about, that was from the mixer. That was still that. That's awesome.
And honestly, just show up, be present wherever you can, even if you're never going to be prepared. Some of the best advice I've gotten too is you can never prepare enough. So show up with the best prep that you have. And later in my senior year, I still had to run to college went to the college and go to a class or, an event for the society or something to fulfill my role there. But might get an invite to a sales dinner, with our VP of sales was taking a couple of sales reps out and I could jump in on that, and ended up just because I was still at the office. They're like, oh, do you want to join us? And then I got exposure to these incredible, powerful women.
Right.
I have two women in mind, not old white dudes. But they were both present and it was just so inspiring and motivating and educational, like that. I learned how to kind of carry myself more professionally. How should I speak in a professional setting, and just what do I need to learn? What are they talking about right now? Just absorbing that. And this is still, my senior year. I love it. Leave that and go to this society where, what? I was actually at a really impressive, a fancy sales dinner just before this. Like, you little people, I'll bring you along with me.
It was at a place called the Capitol Grill, if you ever heard of it. No, that's awesome. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Being present. Like, that's the coolest part because, like, you're like, oh, I'm going to get the degree.
Yeah.
But, like, the degree is a degree. It's the career path I'm on and, like, recognizing, like, I'm present and, like, just being there is going to give me these opportunities. Exactly. So a lot of times it's just being that.
Yeah.
Like, being present, being not just like, I'm stuck here, being like, oh, no, I'm going to seize whatever, like, is given to me. That is awesome.
And jobs and stuff, most people, why I got that job or got an opportunity to apply for that job even was, people hire people they know more often than not, right? So they're going to look for hey, we have an internship opening up. They asked their current intern who's leaving, hey, do you know anybody? And they made a recommendation. Right. Hey, yeah, I just met this girl. I'll recommend her. Because I was there. You know what I mean? It's literally because I just showed up. I'm not the best T&L student.
But you're friendly. You're very, like, open and stuff. Yeah. You don't make anyone feel, like, bad, which is part of the deal. It's like, be nice. People like people like working with people.
Yes.
Like, it's not technology. It's not all the stuff that keeps coming in. At the end of the day, it's still people. And, like, being a genuine person in those environments are something that's going to get you a foot in the door.
Exactly.
And help find things that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
So how do we... I guess let's kind of start transitioning over. What did you end up finding? Why, besides everything you talked about, like the optimization, what about logistics? What kind of had you work like, this is hard, but I'm kind of excited about working in this. Where'd you end up finding passion with that?
Honestly, it came from that process improvement. And that started with leadership. So after I graduated, I realized there was a big gap in our front line and that the VP of sales is who we're reporting to. There's a really big gap here. And we can't get the attention and resources that we need to. He's got bigger fish to fry. So I ended up proposing a a supervisory position in between, and got that approved by leadership and HR, and then applied for said position and got that. Luckily that I wasn't as optimistic. I just knew that and was fighting hard, but I knew that it needed to exist overall. But got that, and then just kept running with, honestly, process improvement. How can we always be adding the most value? Because I don't want to just be busy. That's not job security to me. Right. Because if I can't validate what I'm doing, then someone who's not doing that job definitely can't. And we don't even need this whole department, Yep. So like, let me start quantifying. And I'm honestly, at the time too, I had like an hour commute to work and school. So I just binged TED Talks and just had it like on speaker, YouTube videos or whatever, books on tape, things like that I could just listen to for the drive. And by the time I got to work, I'm pumped. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try this on this. And okay, what's an ROI? Let me try to do that. And just found the passion there and started snowballing. Yeah,
you understood Google.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the amount of times that it was like, Google's what helped me get to some of the places I am today. It was just because like you're saying, had a commute, got to listen to some stuff, like dived in and like what can make my job easier? Mm-hmm. What makes my life not as like, well, this takes me a long period of time. Why don't I try to listen, read, and educate myself on what could do, like get this ready? I had to do coding for a website. And like, I remember the first couple of times it like took me forever to get this magazine published. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I ended up finding Code Academy and I learned, I took the courses there. It wasn't like someone assigned me to that stuff, but it's like, no, you can be proactive. Like it's business. At the end of the day, people are just they're here to collect a paycheck a lot of times, as much as culture and passion and all that stuff play.
Right.
You're going to find a lot of times people are just like, this is a job. It's part of life. It's how I pay bills. It's how I do these other things. The ways you can be successful is by going out and being proactive, trying to use critical thinking skills. And I think that's awesome. One other thing that I think is very important is associations and ways that like a lot of what from what I'm hearing, a lot of the success you found is just being willing to go out and network. I mean, talk about one of the really cool things. And one of the ways that we actually got you here at FreightPlus was at SCU30. So not saying anything, but you're here because of me. Big deal. The Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, CSCMP.
LMNOP.
Oh, wow.
VANA.
Yeah, we didn't take English in Florida. There's a reason we talked about that earlier in this podcast. The CSCMP, that committee or that association. Talk a little bit about that. Why is that so important? Why did you find that valuable? Especially saying like, listen, logistics wasn't something that like you found passion in right off the bat. Like, you found optimization passionate.
Yeah.
How did you find that council? How did you end up joining that society?
So actually talking about just being present as much as possible and volunteering regardless of how underqualified or underprepared you are. One of those sales reps that I was idolizing at that dinner I was talking about, actually it's one of my best friends now, but at the time she's, that was the first time I was meeting her, and she goes, you know what? I'm part of this organization for like supply chain, and then they have like a YP committee, a Young Professionals committee, and I think you'd be really good. I think you should get involved. Period, but also like get on this committee, and there's an interview process for that. And I said, well, all right, maybe I'll do that on my lunch break.
Maybe this will be at a restaurant, and I can get some sliders for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do they have free granola bars? But yeah, so ended up interview. I'm like, well, what am I going to lose, right? Like on my lunch break, what else am I doing? I can't go anywhere. I'm home's an hour away. Like I'm sitting in my car anyways. Let me just go for it. So yeah, that went well. And they said, yeah, we'd like to have you on the committee. And I joined. And once again, that is the epitome of just being involved for CSC. Then I got me CSCMP. Like, I mean, transportation loves acronyms, but CSCMP had to like go all out with it.
Yeah.
But it really is a testament to just get out of it what you put in. So I've just continued to be involved, and like there's a lot of the journals and things like that didn't really apply to me. I'm like, I'm not running a warehouse. There's things that are over my head.
Right.
But there's so many things that, I mean, especially being on a committee of people roughly in the same stage of their careers, right? Recent grads or only been in the careers for a couple of years. There's so much more you can learn from someone at your level, as opposed to like a mentorship with, a C-suite person that, that you're like, well, how am I going to correlate that with my trajectory over the next 2 years,
Right. They have knowledge that like you're just like, how would I ever think about that? Like there's an intimidation factor a lot of times. You're like, oh well, like I know you're very open and stuff, but like I don't know like how to ask the questions. I don't even know that I don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I think it's really cool to have that networking thing. And like you say, I would find, I mean, listen, I'm someone who's not in any associations or anything like that, but like I'm on Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, but I mean, it is important. It's important to go to that. I used to do some like Boston Media Maker stuff. Like I've gone to those. I try to do those things, but it's important. I think, especially the younger you are, you don't think of it as that. It takes a while to realize that like, oh no, like networks are important to you. Like it really does help you out, especially if you want to be good at your job. You've got to sort of, it's not just go there, do your best work and like your starting line, like you got to work for it a little bit more. There's
so much that I look back now and I won't say took it for granted. I just didn't know how much exposure I would have. I actually love that about FreightPlus because I can see it now that there's so many experiences and so much education that folks on our team are getting so early on. Like, I know that's not the norm. Like it takes a long time to get at that hill. Right. So immersing yourself in any of those organizations and communities and whatever you match up with. I'm terrible about updating my LinkedIn and, getting involved in these different, even like with CSCMP, that we all have like local roundtables everywhere. And I didn't do as much of those events. Right. But, the subcommittee I'm on, we do the conference. I love the conference. It's a lot of energy and just immersion. Again, I get really passionate. But that's something I could really connect with. And that's how I ended up kind of, again, just snowballing into, other opportunities, exposure, and just so much education. You just don't even realize that I mean, it's giving me a flashback to a couple months into, maybe a couple months after graduation. I don't think I'd gotten the promotion yet, but my SVP walks by with the SVP of another division. They had just flown in from California, and he's asked me to like coordinate some like restaurant reservations or something for them. Okay. I'm not a secretary, or I'm not but whatever. But I stopped that to start asking him about, I'm trying to write a mission and vision statement for our department. I was really passionate about that. And this is my boss's boss, mind you. So he's like, you're asking your boss's boss this question? And I just kind of, I probably laughed at the time, like, yeah, can you give me an answer? Like, give me some input. But I realize now, that holy cow, I was so comfortable and confident a couple of months after graduation, if that, just to walk right up to the SVP and say, here's what I'm trying to do. I want your input. Give me some advice. Like that's the kind of stuff that, puts you on a trajectory that's so steep and phenomenal that it's tough, but it's so worthwhile.
I think it's interesting too, because I think that's more of like your generation, our generation, the upcoming generation. It's you've had this access to the world. So like to us, it's not like talking to the SVP. You're like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like you're on the internet just as I am. Like we're the same group. So like, no, you've got some knowledge. I'd love to like tap your brain. I'd love to know what you would think about this. I think that's important. I think a lot of the SCU30s that we've had on here were just that same way. It was like, don't create these little barriers in your head because you think it exists like that because you've watched some sort of show like The Office where you think like, oh, this is how this works. Like, no, everyone's kind of like, people want to interact. Like we want to interact with each other. We'll start to wrap up and we'll start to kind of, how the hell did you get up here? How'd you leave sunny Florida to come up in the freaking snow? But
haven't gotten to the snow yet.
Yeah, before we do that, just quick shout out with young listeners. How do they get involved with the CSCMP? God,
first, you got to get a flashcard and memorize CSCMP. Honestly, you can reach out to me if you want, but we actually have CSCMP has a lot, really large LinkedIn presence, and you can go straight to the website if you want, cscmp.org. Don't quote me on that.
We'll put the link in the show.
Okay. But yeah, you can go to on LinkedIn too. I think is kind of the easiest, probably most productive way because you're not just diving straight in. You don't know where to go yet. There's so much and so much product and services and everything that they have to offer, but so much you could dive into that. I think in the LinkedIn you can really kind of find what is your community within CSCMP? What connects with you? Like I said, the annual conference was really mine. There's a lot of stuff that, especially the past couple of years, we've really ramped up the online presence, especially the Young Professionals Committee. We actually made a subcommittee dedicated to that online presence. And they just have constantly all kinds of like webinars you can jump in on, and just discussions are going on, and I mean, several times a week they're posting things. So that's a really, I think really solid way to kind of segue into that, see where your niche is, and then
perfect hub. Yeah. And we'll include the show notes. So the link to that, we'll include, the Young Professionals like LinkedIn group. So we'll include all that stuff in this. So go there if you're reading this. We are like so close to being over an hour. So what I want to do is part 2 of this. I know I've said it before, and Victoria Brown still has not come on because she refuses to call and contact me, even though I've contacted her a couple times. So when she listens to this, you need to email me so we can do part 2. But I think we should part 2. I think you got some really interesting stuff. You went to Transplace, one of those really, really big logistics or like 3PLs that they just sold. Like there's crazy stuff. Yeah, Uber Freight just bought the place you were at. You came up here. I think there's a lot more to your journey that I think we should probably do a part 2. How does that sound for you?
Sure, I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, Chelsea, I don't know why I messed up saying Chelsea because the C's screwing up on me. The CSCMP, boom, nailed it first time last time. It's been great talking to you. Part 2, I can't wait for.
All right, likewise. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's our show. Are you a supply chain professional under the age of 30 interested in talking about your journey? Let me know in the comments section and I'll be sure to have you on the show. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching Consulting Logistics. I'm Comic Knot. Rock and roll.